Hello and welcome to my channel. Today we will be making a lovely scrapbook to capture all your fun summer memories. I began by filling the door mold with clay. This is an older mold, but on my blog you'll find suggestions for similar molds or tips on how to create your own door from scratch. As always, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. I slowly pressed the clay into the mold. I wasn't aiming for perfection. I wanted the door to have a slightly weathered look, as if time had left its mark. If you prefer a more polished look, press small bits of clay firmly to the finer details of the mold, making sure to press deeply into the grooves. Once the mold was filled, I smoothed the clay using a bit of water and a rolling pin. You want the back of the door to be as smooth as possible, so it will adhere well to the scrapbook. Afterward, I let it dry thoroughly. I recommend letting it dry for at least 24 hours to ensure no moisture remains. You'll know the door is fully dry when it easily lifts out of the mold. If there are any imperfections, don't worry, they just add character to the final result. Plus, most will disappear once you apply paint. To create the stone wall, I laid down a piece of paper the size of my album to serve as my workspace. It's helpful to use the door as a guide, tracing its outline on the paper to plan your layout. For each stone, I cut a small piece of clay and gently shaped it by pressing on the top and the sides. I made each stone a different size to mimic the look of an old castle. Feel free to play around with different sizes and move the stones around until you find the perfect arrangement. One mistake I made was forgetting to account for the album holes. Luckily, the clay shrinks slightly as it dries, so I was able to adjust everything without too much trouble. Be sure to make a few extra clay stones to fill in any gaps after everything dries. A useful tip for achieving great results is to keep your hands clean by wiping them with a damp cloth or a baby wipe between handling the clay. This prevents dry clay from transferring to the fresh material, which can cause unwanted gaps or cracks. Next, it was time to glue everything together. I carefully moved the clay pieces from the paper to the scrapbook, ensuring they stayed in the same order. I used a generous amount of strong wood glue, but you can use any type of strong adhesive you prefer. By the way, if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I put a lot of effort into creating these videos and it's always so rewarding to know you enjoy them. And be sure to visit my blog for even more fun craft ideas. Now for the fun part, let's start painting. I'm painting the entire cover black. In hindsight, I recommend painting the album cover black before gluing the stones. Initially, I skipped this step because I thought I'd like the craft paper background to show through, but it just didn't feel right. I chose black base because many Casle darken over time, giving them that vintage weathered look. I was worried it might be too dark, but the result turned out amazing. After the dark paint dried, I started layering color into the stones. Start slow and keep building color. There's no wrong way to do this. I mixed shades of brown, beige, yellow, red and grey, giving each stone its own unique hue and personality. Just follow your instincts here. For the door, I used a rich reddish brown to mimic the look of aged expensive wood. To highlight the details, I applied gold wax which gave the door a grand castle-like appearance. I used a fine brush to retouch any small mistakes along the way. At this point, my album was nearly finished, but I wanted to add an extra detail. I glued some moss between the stones, which gave the whole project a realistic touch. If I were to make this again, I would probably add even more moss. And with that, my scrapbook is complete. Stay tuned to my blog to see how I decorated the inside. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time!